This is the first class of Drawing 2, and Drawing 2 involves learning to use the pencil to create value, because in most cases you will be using only value in order to render a botanical illustration. Now in Drawing 1, all you did was work with line. You worked with weighted line, you worked with disappearing line, you worked with textured line. You did all kinds of things with line. For the most part, that line is only going to be used now for your preliminary drawings when you have to draw contour studies of your specimen. Now what we have to do is learn how to use the pencil to create value. But let's work with the 2H pencil. And the important thing is that when you hold the pencil, that you hold it at a very low angle to the page. In Drawing 1, you were able to hold your pencil in a normal fashion, such as this. With Drawing 2, when we're dealing with values, we need to hold the pencil a little farther away from the point. That is so that you will get a more even tone and you'll put less pressure on the pencil as you're working. Because the important thing with value is that you build the value slowly and not trying to put the value down in the first layer. So this requires a little bit more control and a little less pressure on the page. The way that you do this is you want to apply the value in very small circular strokes that are slightly overlapping one another. And that way you will get nice even transitions from one area to another. Now this is a 2H pencil, so this will apply the value, fairly dark value initially. You can probably lighten up on the pencil a little bit more, but I would say on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm probably putting about a 3 of pressure on the pencil. Now, I could probably go even lighter, which you might have to do with a particular subject. But usually what I like to do is I like to work with a much harder pencil initially before I get to a darker value. Now, this is a 4H pencil. I am applying very light pressure to the paper to get a nice even tone. I'm going to switch back to the 2H. This was a number 3 pressure. This is probably a 1. And now I'm going to go back on again and do the same thing, working with very small circular strokes that slightly overlap, and put down a second layer of value. And then you can apply another layer of value, same pressure, never changing the pressure, just adding layer upon layer of graphite until you get this to the point where you want it to be. Now with different hardnesses of pencil, you're only going to be able to go to a certain point of darkness. So you can see again here, this is my 3rd layer of graphite. Now I can put a 4th layer of graphite on here. And I still have the ability to get this pencil to go darker. So now I'm doing the 5th layer. And I'm almost to the point where I can't go any darker, but I'm going to keep going and see what happens. The important thing is not to apply too much pressure to the pencil, because the one thing you do not want to get on your page is a characteristic called bloom. Now you will get, as you add more graphite to an area, you will get sheen, which is a little bit of shininess that happens with graphite as you apply more layers to your subject. Bloom, on the other hand, is when you have pressed too hard, and I'll do an example of that, trying to get a dark color, and then what happens is that the fibers of the paper become compressed and you get this glossy surface that happens because the paper has been damaged. If you want to get a dark value like this, you have to go to a softer pencil. The other thing to remember is that the paper that you use is also quite important. It needs to have a little bit of tooth to it. If you have bought paper that says plate finish, you're not going to be able to get even this amount of value onto the page. The plate surface will not take it. It's the tooth in the paper that allows the graphite to grip the paper fibers and therefore build value.